why you can't sleep and how to fix it. Introduction. What if the reason you can't sleep has nothing to do with your mattress, your pillow, or even your bedroom? What if the real problem started hours earlier inside your metabolism, your hormones, and your body's internal clock? Millions of people struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep, or wake up feeling refreshed. Many assume that sleep problems are simply a normal part of aging, stress, or a busy lifestyle. But here's what the research shows. Poor sleep is often a symptom of deeper physiological imbalances, not the root problem itself. Recent research continues to highlight the powerful relationship between circadian rhythms, hormone regulation, metabolism, and sleep quality. When these systems become disrupted, sleep is often one of the first things to suffer, and this matters far more than most people realize. A single night of poor sleep can negatively affect insulin sensitivity, blood sugar regulation, appetite control, energy production, cognitive performance, and even fat burning efficiency. Over time, chronic sleep disruption has been linked to weight gain, metabolic dysfunction, accelerated aging, and increased risk of chronic disease. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Sleep is not simply a period of rest. Sleep is an active biological process directed by an intricate conversation between your brain, liver, hormones, nervous system, and circadian clock. When that conversation becomes distorted through stress, blood sugar instability, late night eating, excessive artificial light, or poor daily habits, your body receives mixed signals about when to sleep and when to stay alert. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is a world-class orchestra. Your hormones are the musicians, your organs are the instruments, and your circadian rhythm is the conductor. When the conductor keeps perfect time, the music is beautiful. But when the conductor loses rhythm, every section starts playing at the wrong moment. The result is noise instead of harmony. That's exactly what insomnia often is, a timing problem disguised as a sleep problem. In this video, we're going to uncover 6 science-backed reasons why sleep becomes disrupted, what those reasons reveal about your overall health, and most importantly, the practical steps you can take starting tonight to restore deep, restorative sleep naturally. And if you're serious about optimizing your health, energy, metabolism, and longevity, consider subscribing. I post evidence-based health content every day designed to help you work with your biology, not against it. One of the most common and least recognized reasons people wake up in the middle of the night is unstable blood sugar. If you've ever fallen asleep easily but found yourself suddenly awake at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or 4 o'clock in the morning, this section may explain exactly what's happening. Here's what's really going on inside your body. While you're sleeping, your brain continues to require a steady supply of energy. Under normal circumstances, your liver carefully releases stored glucose throughout the night to keep blood sugar stable. This process is tightly regulated by hormones including insulin, glucagon, cortisol, and adrenaline. But when blood sugar drops too low during the night, your brain treats it as an emergency, and that's when the trouble begins. To protect you, your body releases stress hormones, primarily cortisol and adrenaline, to raise blood sugar back to a safe level. The problem is that these hormones are stimulating. They increase alertness, elevate heart rate, and prepare the body for action. In other words, your body's emergency backup system may be waking you up. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain is a city that requires electricity throughout the night. Your liver is the power plant. If the power plant suddenly struggles to supply enough energy, emergency generators switch on. Those generators are loud, disruptive, and impossible to ignore. Cortisol and adrenaline are those emergency generators. Research has consistently shown that nighttime hypoglycemia and glucose fluctuations can trigger sympathetic nervous system activation, increasing sleep fragmentation and reducing overall sleep quality. Even individuals without diabetes can experience significant nighttime glucose swings due to poor meal timing and dietary habits. So what causes these blood sugar crashes? For many people, it's a combination of highly processed carbohydrates, sugary desserts, alcohol before bed, prolonged periods without adequate protein, or inconsistent eating patterns throughout the day. The solution is surprisingly simple. First, prioritize protein at dinner. Aim for a meal that contains quality protein along with fiber-rich vegetables and healthy fats. This combination helps stabilize blood sugar for several hours. Second, avoid large amounts of sugar, refined carbohydrates, and alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. Third, if you're experimenting with fasting, make sure your body has adapted properly. Some people sleep better with fasting, while others initially experience nighttime cortisol elevations if fasting is too aggressive. And here's an important practical tool. After dinner, take a gentle 10 to 15-minute walk. This simple habit can significantly improve glucose control and reduce nighttime blood sugar volatility. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day, I share evidence-based strategies that help you improve metabolism, energy, and long-term health by addressing root causes instead of symptoms. Because when blood sugar becomes stable, sleep often improves naturally, but blood sugar is only part of the story. The next major culprit is cortisol, the body's master stress hormone, which may be keeping your brain awake even when your body is exhausted. You can be physically tired, mentally exhausted, and still unable to sleep. If you've ever laid in bed thinking, why am I still awake when I'm so tired? The answer often comes down to one powerful hormone, cortisol. Cortisol is frequently misunderstood as a bad hormone. In reality, cortisol is essential for survival. It helps regulate blood sugar, supports energy production, controls inflammation, and helps you wake up in the morning feeling alert. The problem isn't cortisol itself. The problem is timing. Under healthy conditions, cortisol follows a predictable daily rhythm. It rises sharply in the morning to help you start the day and gradually declines as evening approaches. At night, cortisol should be relatively low, allowing melatonin, the body's primary sleep hormone, to take over. But modern life often disrupts this rhythm. Chronic stress, financial worries, excessive caffeine, intense late-night exercise, constant notifications, emotional overwhelm, and even overworking can convince your brain that a threat is present long after the day is over. When that happens, cortisol remains elevated, and your brain receives a very clear message: stay alert, don't sleep yet. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you're responsible for guarding a castle. If scouts continuously report danger outside the walls, would you close the gates and go to sleep? Of course not. You would stay vigilant. That's exactly what your brain does when cortisol remains elevated. It interprets stress as a signal that sleep is unsafe, even when you're physically exhausted. Recent research continues to demonstrate strong links between chronic stress, dysregulated cortisol patterns, hyperarousal, and insomnia. In many individuals, insomnia is less a problem of sleep deficiency and more a problem of persistent physiological alertness. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to force sleep without addressing the underlying stress signals. Instead, focus on reducing biological arousal. Here's a practical evening protocol. About 2 hours before bed, begin creating what sleep researchers call a wind-down period. Dim household lights, reduce exposure to work emails and stressful content, avoid intense exercise late in the evening. If possible, keep the final hour before bed free from news, social media debates, and mentally demanding tasks. Many people also benefit from slow breathing exercises. A simple technique is inhaling through the nose for 4 seconds and exhaling slowly for 6 to 8 seconds. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest, recovery, and sleep. Magnesium glycinate may also support relaxation in some individuals by helping regulate nervous system activity and muscle tension. But perhaps the most important lesson is this: you cannot expect a stressed brain to instantly become a sleeping brain. Sleep is the result of safety signals. The more consistently you send your body signals of safety, calm, and predictability, the easier sleep becomes. And that leads directly to another major factor influencing those signals every single night: light. Because even if your stress is under control, artificial light may be quietly disrupting the biological clock that determines when your body feels sleepy in the first place. For most of human history, the setting sun told the body exactly what to do. As daylight faded, the brain received a clear signal: it's time to prepare for sleep. Today, that signal has become blurred. We live surrounded by artificial light, overhead LEDs, smartphones, tablets, televisions, laptops, and bright indoor environments that can trick the brain into believing it's still daytime long after sunset. And this may be one of the most underestimated causes of poor sleep. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Deep within the brain sits a tiny structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, often referred to as the body's master clock. This clock coordinates nearly every biological rhythm, including hormone production, metabolism, body temperature, digestion, and sleep. Its primary input is light. When light enters the eyes, specialized retinal cells send a message directly to the brain. Bright light, especially blue-enriched light, suppresses melatonin production. Melatonin isn't a sleeping pill. Melatonin is a timing signal. It tells the body that darkness has arrived and that biological repair, recovery, and sleep should begin. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body operates like an airport. Melatonin is the air traffic controller that signals when planes can safely land. If bright light keeps interrupting that controller, the planes continue circling overhead instead of landing smoothly. That's exactly what happens when melatonin production is delayed. You may feel tired, but your biological clock is still receiving daytime instructions. Research consistently demonstrates that evening exposure to artificial light delays melatonin release, shifts circadian timing, increases sleep latency, and reduces overall sleep quality. Even relatively short periods of bright screen exposure before bed can significantly affect sleep architecture. The good news is that fixing this problem is often remarkably simple. Start by prioritizing morning sunlight. Within the first hour after waking, spend at least 10 to 20 minutes outdoors whenever possible. Morning light is one of the strongest signals available for synchronizing the circadian clock. Think of it as setting your body's internal watch. Then in the evening, do the opposite. Dim household lighting after sunset. Reduce screen brightness. Use warm-colored lamps whenever possible. If you frequently work on devices at night, consider blue light filtering settings or glasses during the final few hours before bed. One particularly effective habit is creating a light sunset inside your home. As bedtime approaches, gradually reduce light intensity throughout the environment. This mimics the natural progression of dusk that humans evolved with for thousands of years. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day I share practical, science-based strategies that help you improve energy, metabolism, sleep, and healthy aging naturally. Remember this key point: your circadian rhythm is not controlled by willpower. It is controlled by signals. And light is one of the most powerful signals your body receives all day. But even when cortisol is balanced and circadian rhythms are functioning properly, another common habit can keep the body's metabolic machinery running when it should be winding down. Let's talk about late-night eating and why meal timing may matter just as much as food quality when it comes to restorative sleep. Many people spend tremendous effort improving what they eat while paying very little attention to when they eat. But when it comes to sleep, timing matters. In fact, one of the most common habits that quietly disrupts sleep is eating too close to bedtime. Here's what's really going on inside your body. During the day, your body is designed for activity, digestion, and energy production. At night, it shifts into a completely different biological program: repair, recovery, detoxification, immune regulation, memory consolidation, and cellular maintenance. Sleep is when the body performs some of its most important housekeeping functions. But when you eat a large meal late at night, especially one high in refined carbohydrates, sugar, or excess calories, you force your metabolic systems to remain active when they should be slowing down. The digestive system has to process food. Insulin levels rise, the liver continues managing incoming nutrients, body temperature may increase, and instead of transitioning into recovery mode, the body remains partially focused on digestion and fuel management. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine a large office building at the end of the workday. Normally, employees leave, lights dim, and the cleaning crew begins restoring the building for the next day. Now imagine hundreds of people suddenly arrive at 10 p.m. demanding services. The cleaning crew can't do its job efficiently. That's exactly what late-night eating can do to your body's nighttime repair processes. Research increasingly supports the connection between meal timing, circadian biology, and sleep quality. Studies have shown that eating close to bedtime can delay circadian rhythms, impair metabolic regulation, increase nighttime awakenings, and reduce sleep efficiency. The body's internal clocks are present not only in the brain, but also in the liver, pancreas, gut, and other tissues. When food arrives at biologically inappropriate times, these clocks can become misaligned. One particularly important organ in this conversation is the liver. The liver plays a central role in regulating blood sugar, processing nutrients, detoxifying compounds, and supporting metabolic stability during sleep. When the liver is overloaded late at night, sleep quality often suffers. So what should you do? A practical target is to finish your final meal at least 3 hours before bedtime. For example, if you typically sleep at 10 p.m., aim to finish dinner by 7 p.m. Keep evening meals balanced and moderate rather than excessively large. Prioritize protein, vegetables, healthy fats, and fiber while minimizing heavy desserts and large amounts of refined carbohydrates. Alcohol deserves special attention as well. Many people believe alcohol helps them sleep because it causes initial drowsiness. In reality, alcohol often fragments sleep later in the night, suppresses restorative sleep stages, and increases awakenings. A person may fall asleep faster but wake up less recovered. Here's the key takeaway. Sleep is not simply about closing your eyes, it's about allowing your biology to shift from energy consumption into repair mode. The earlier you give your body permission to make that transition, the better your chances of achieving deep, restorative sleep. But there's another hidden factor that often prevents the brain from fully relaxing at night, even when meal timing is optimized, and that's nutrient status. Because the hormones and neurotransmitters responsible for sleep can only be produced when the body has the raw materials it needs. Have you ever wondered why two people can follow the exact same bedtime routine, yet one falls asleep effortlessly while the other lies awake for hours? Part of the answer may come down to nutrition. Because sleep is not something that simply happens to you. Sleep is something your body actively creates. And to create sleep, your brain must manufacture specific neurotransmitters and hormones using nutrients obtained from food. When those nutrients are insufficient, the entire system can become less efficient. Here's what's really going on inside your body. To transition into sleep, the brain relies on a carefully coordinated network of chemical messengers. These include serotonin, GABA, melatonin, and other compounds involved in relaxation, circadian regulation, and nervous system balance. Producing these compounds requires adequate levels of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and cofactors. Think of it like building a house. You may have excellent blueprints, skilled workers, and plenty of time. But if you're missing bricks, lumber, or concrete, construction slows down. The same principle applies to sleep biology. Among the most important nutrients involved in sleep regulation is magnesium. Magnesium participates in hundreds of enzymatic reactions throughout the body and plays a key role in nervous system function, muscle relaxation, and stress regulation. Low magnesium status has been associated with poor sleep quality, difficulty falling asleep, and increased nighttime awakenings in some individuals. Vitamin D may also influence sleep through its effects on circadian rhythms, immune regulation, and brain function. Research continues to identify associations between inadequate vitamin D levels and impaired sleep outcomes. Another frequently overlooked factor is protein intake. The amino acid tryptophan serves as a precursor for serotonin and melatonin production. While no single food magically induces sleep, consistently consuming adequate protein throughout the day provides the raw materials needed for these pathways. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you're trying to bake bread. You can have the perfect recipe and the best oven in the world, but without enough flour, the loaf never comes together. Likewise, without sufficient nutritional building blocks, the brain may struggle to optimize the chemistry that supports restorative sleep. So what can you do? Start with food first. Focus on nutrient-dense whole foods such as fish, eggs, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, legumes, and colorful vegetables. Magnesium-rich foods include pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, and beans. If supplementation is appropriate for you, magnesium glycinate is commonly used because it is generally well tolerated and may support relaxation. Vitamin D status can be assessed through laboratory testing, especially for individuals with limited sun exposure. And remember, supplements should support a healthy lifestyle, not replace one. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day I break down the science of metabolism, nutrition, longevity, and healthy aging into practical strategies you can use immediately. The key lesson here is simple. Your brain cannot manufacture optimal sleep chemistry from nutritional scarcity. Give your body the raw materials it needs, and many biological systems, including sleep, often function more effectively. But there is one final piece of the puzzle that ties everything together, because even perfect nutrition cannot fully compensate for daytime habits that continuously send the wrong signals to your internal clock. And that's what we'll explore next. One of the biggest misconceptions about sleep is that it begins when you get into bed. In reality, sleep begins the moment you wake up. The quality of your sleep tonight is largely determined by the signals your body receives throughout the day. And this is where many people unknowingly work against their own biology. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain operates on a powerful internal timing system known as the circadian rhythm. This system is constantly collecting information from your environment and using that information to predict when you should be awake and when you should be asleep. Every exposure to sunlight, every meal, every workout, every caffeine intake, every period of movement or inactivity. All of these events help shape your sleep later that night. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your circadian rhythm as a train running on a schedule. Each healthy daytime habit keeps the train moving smoothly along its tracks, but every conflicting signal creates delays. By bedtime, those delays accumulate and the train may arrive hours later than expected. This is why some people struggle to sleep despite trying every bedtime trick imaginable. The real problem started 12 hours earlier. One of the strongest sleep-promoting signals is physical activity. Research consistently shows that regular movement improves sleep quality, reduces sleep onset latency, and increases time spent in restorative sleep stages. You don't need marathon training. A daily walk, resistance training session, cycling routine, or any consistent movement pattern can significantly improve sleep outcomes. Caffeine is another important factor. Caffeine blocks adenosine, a molecule that gradually accumulates in the brain throughout the day and creates sleep pressure. Think of adenosine as your body's natural sleep drive. When caffeine blocks that signal late in the day, you may feel less tired even though your body still needs sleep. For many individuals, avoiding caffeine within 8 to 10 hours of bedtime can make a noticeable difference. Morning light exposure also deserves repeating because it is so powerful. Within the first hour of waking, aim to expose your eyes to natural outdoor light whenever possible. This helps anchor the circadian clock and improves melatonin timing later in the evening. Here's a simple daily protocol that combines many of the principles we've discussed. Wake at a consistent time. Get morning sunlight, move your body daily, eat meals at predictable times, Limit caffeine after midday. Finish dinner at least 3 hours before bed. Dim lights in the evening. Create a consistent sleep schedule. Notice that none of these strategies are extreme. They are simply ways of cooperating with your biology instead of fighting it. The body thrives on rhythm, and when rhythm is restored, sleep often becomes dramatically easier. Which brings us to the most important question. What should you actually do starting tonight? Let's pull all of these pieces together into a practical action plan that can help transform not only your sleep, but your energy, metabolism, and long-term health as well.